Danielle started.
I didn't know I was starting. Hello and welcome to the Big Money Stylist podcast. If I just had resting bitch face, it's because I didn't know I was starting the podcast. Welcome to episode number 73. We're fairly confident it's episode number 73.
Could be 75, 105. We don't really know anymore.
Do the listeners need to know? I mean, because maybe they're like, oh, I think I heard, like they're going to remember, oh, I heard 73. Like they're not going to remember.
I don't know, because you know what? I started listening to this podcast and now
you know.
And I look through the numbers. I'm like, oh, what did I just finish? Because I'm backtracking now because I'm like all caught up. So I go by numbers. Oh. But fun fact, do you know when I drive, I also go by exit numbers, not the name of them?
Oh. That makes sense. Your brain is wired that way.
I just feel like
I go by colors. I'm like, I'm going to get off the purple exit. That one is pretty.
I just feel like it makes more sense to say you're going to go to exit 101 because then you're like, oh, I'm at exit 90.
You know what? That actually does make sense. And did you know where I'm from in Utah, everything is, there's not names for roads. It's done on a grid. So like people will say, where do you live? And you're like, I live on 7200 South and 6th East. And because everything's on a grid, you literally know exactly where that's at. Instead of cross streets.
And that works great. So that's why when people, they're like, you're going to take exit on 1st Street or whatever, and it's a fucking highway. I'm like, am I going for 10 miles? Am I going for 20? I need very specific and strategic directions.
Yeah,
I've lived here a year and a half. I go to one Target and I still don't know how to get there. It's a problem.
You know what? California, when I first moved here, and I'll just say this, it's very like mountainy and hilly. And like, I remember still to this day, if I'm going somewhere, I'm like, shit, there's so many different ways to get home. I'm like, I'm going to GPS it so I can see which one's the fastest way to get home. So, I don't know.
I take one way to Target probably once or twice a month.
Which Target do you
for
go
a year and a half.
Do you go San Clemente?
No. Elisa. It's the one inland to me.
Just kidding.
You can see.
You're one of those.
I'm that guy.
Just kidding.
There's it's like a weird parking lot and there's like a gas station. Is that Aliso?
I don't know.
This is fucking pathetic. I go there. I've been there for a year and a half. I literally still don't know how.
I don't go to Target anymore. I send somebody for me.
Oh, well, that's nice.
I can't. Since online grocery shopping and like having a help, I like literally when I have to go to the grocery store, I'm like, that's lame. There's got to be an app for that. Like,
I have not gone to the grocery store in months. I have everything delivered. Can we just address that really quick? Because people, I'm sure listening, they're like, bougie bitches. They can't even get their own groceries. It's time management.
Yeah. No.
If I go to the grocery store, I'm going to make an entire list of everything I need. I'm going to get nothing on the fucking list and I'm going to wander for 2 hours. Or I can pay $12 to have someone go pick up
It's so worth it. It's you know what? And it's so funny. I always tell like women or artists behind the chair, I'm like, you guys don't have time for the little shit. You're already working. You're already overworking yourself like 80 hours a week. So you need to hire help for your laundry. You need to hire a cleaner. You need to hire like.
I have those too.
Yes, but it's so funny because like especially as a mom, like you're drained and then you come home and you're like, I got to do the laundry. Well, that's your damn fault. You created the situation where you're working 80 hours a week and then you don't hire help. Like you have to let go. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. That's why for me, the minute I hired Rosa, I come in every Tuesday. I come home Tuesday night. And she's done my laundry. Everything is clean. My dishes.
Do you know what's been hard for me in like letting go is, and that could be with house stuff, it could be with work stuff. My hardest thing is somebody would do it and it wouldn't be like how I would do it. It wasn't even that it was like right or wrong. It just wasn't how I would do it. And I'd be like so fucking pissed that I just want to like do it myself. Yes. And then I was like, you know what? I can't keep operating like that because I don't have enough time. And it's funny because like artists will do that a lot with assistants. They'll be like, and I hear this from students all the time. They're like, I don't have time to train somebody in this and this and this. I'm like, you don't have time to not train somebody. And you need to understand, like, they're not always going to do it exactly how you do it, but you train them, and over time, it benefits you. But anyway.
But that is huge, though. And even now, obviously, with the changes inside of BMS, like, we just sat here Monday. You're like, you need an assistant. I'm like, I don't need an assistant. Then you're like, we need another you. And I'm like, haha, not an assistant. But I hear you. And now I've been sitting here like, okay, what are the things that I do that if I leave, not leave the company, so everybody calm your pants down, but if I'm like on vacation or I'm not here in town, what are the things that I need to have? Yeah. Exactly. So
if your business is solely relying on you, you can only become so successful. And so it wasn't like, even when I told you, I'm like, hey, we need help. It wasn't like, oh, you suck, you're doing something wrong. It's like the growth of the company relies on a team. You know what I mean?
For sure. So, and I feel like that was something that I had to super accept, like, okay. Yeah. And then it also gave me space to be like, you're doing all of it, which
Right.
is fine. But at the same time, I'm like, what are the things that I like love doing?
Yeah, you
though?
should be able to like focus on what you're good at. And I think there's a balance. Like for me, it was like I was in control too much of my business. And then I started like, I actually hired my husband. I literally was like, hey, I cannot deal with the stress level. Like, I need you to help. And what happened there is I think I stepped out too much, not even too much. It was really hard to work with with Garrett, to be honest with you, because it was like, I mean, it was hard on our relationship, but it was also almost like I wanted to trust that he could, bring the company, like evolve the company. But then I would try to say like, I was like kind of out of the loop, and then I would try to tell him how to do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I actually I fired him as like my CEO with the salon and the education. Now I'm like the CEO, so I'm trying to like be a part of everything, And then like yesterday we had some shit go down, and I told him, and he's like, automatically, he's like, do you need me to come down? Do you want me to do this? And I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, you should do this. And I finally had to be like, you are basing your opinion off of ignorance. You haven't been involved. You don't get to say. And that's probably how I felt for like an entire year when I was like,
yeah.
But I almost had to step out because I was like so controlling to the point where I was like, I'm just going to close my eyes and hope it works. You know what I mean? And it did work to a certain level. But then, so I challenge you guys like out there, if you're a salon owner, a business owner, whatever it is, like, if you're like kind of learning to delegate and you're hiring a team, you still have to have like weekly meetings. You still have to kind of be in the know of what's going on in your company so that you're not like, fuck, how did that happen? Because you were too busy on focusing on your niche and you're like, I'm the artist. I just work on celebrities. That's all I do. Well, if you don't work on the business side and you don't know what's going on, you're kind of fucking yourself.
Well, even one of our artists actually sent me a message inside a mastermind, and she was like, Ani, I'm freaking out. I'm stressing out. Oh my God. So of course I think the world is ending, and obviously something serious happened. I was like, what's going on? And she's like, I hired my first assistant. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this was the 911 emergency you're coming to me with. And I said, what's wrong? And she's like, I'm just stressed out. I'm like, cool. Well, when does she start? She's like, tomorrow, which is today. And I said, okay, here's 2 pieces of advice I can give you. Number 1, you're gonna have to slow down right now, but that will help you speed up later. Right. Second piece of advice, you have to, in your mind, assume they know nothing, which I'm not saying treat your assistant like she's a fucking moron. Don't be an asshole. Don't expect her. Don't think that
Don't assume.
Don't assume that they know exactly what you're thinking. Because if you're like, go baby light, a baby light to you is not a baby light to me. If you're like, go make this spreadsheet or whatever the hell it is you do for your business, I like my spreadsheets a certain way. Okay. Might sound weird, but I do. So I told her, I said, expect you're going to work slower now, but that will help you go 10 times faster in the future. And assume she knows nothing and explain everything that you do. And she's like,
it's hard when you first hire an assistant because you just assume that people know how to do a basic baby light. You just assume when you say hairline highlights. You assume even the simplest thing like a base. Like I think of a base as like the simplest thing until like I had hired a few assistants, and I'm not talking trash on any of my assistants, but like I am very particular how I base the hairline. I'm very particular how much I apply it, the product, you know what I mean? So even a base, like down to that, I like now it's like you have to go in and show them. And in the beginning, you almost feel like bad. You feel like this sense of like, I don't want to treat you like a moron. But guess what? You hired an assistant and they don't know your ways of how you're doing it. So you have to like, for me, it's like, it's not even necessarily slowing down because I've gotten so used to hiring new assistants. But in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, like it would just.
That's what I'm saying.
It would just fuck me. Like
in the beginning, you, especially on your first assistant.
It's because you're not used to communicating out loud stuff like, hey, see how my brush is feathering right here? See the amount of product that I'm pulling into zone 2? Your brain's not used to being on like that. And so
you just do because it's natural.
Yes, but it makes you a better artist because you realize like, oh God, that's why I baby light like that. Oh God, that's why I pull my foils back. Like, oh, that's why I tease the hair like that. So it makes you understand why you do what you do and become even better and be able to give yourself better feedback. So just going back to like, if we have a student listening to this, like it does slow you down in the sense that you have to like think about what you're doing.
Yes.
And then just know, like if you ever, because I hear this a lot too, people be like, oh my God, I spent like a year training this assistant and now they want to move on. I'm like, oh, that's weird. They didn't want to be your assistant for the rest of their entire lives. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. let them fly and give yourself a little more credit that maybe you're a better trainer and it's not going to be as scary as you think. And the other thing is open communication with your assistants. If you know like they're going to be advancing to the floor, if they're going to be like moving on, then you most likely will need to bring in another assistant under that assistant to help them train them in your ways.
Yeah, don't wait until your current one leaves to then replace them with someone else. That is the worst thing you can do, because then for a minute you're 100% assistant less. And if you have one that's on the way out for good reasons, bad reasons, it doesn't matter. Just leaving, they can help train the new one as well. It's a team.
Did you know that's why I used to only work with one assistant, and now I'm like, I have to work with two because of that transition period when I would have an artist go onto the floor and I'd bring in another one. And then I got so used to working with two, like when the other one's ready to go on the floor, I get all panicky. I'm like, bring another one in, because I'm used to having two. So, but it does, I'm bougie like that. No, I found like a flow and a system that works. And so like even inside the assistant game, you kind of find something that works, which brings us into our topic that I really wanted to talk about today.
Yes.
And we mentioned it last week. If you missed last week's podcast, we talked about like the integrity behind being a business owner. It's like hair, social media, there's such an abundance of information available that the worst thing you can do is mislead clients. And so we just touched base on like integrity, know what you're offering. Like that'd be like offering Orbe shampoo and like swapping it out for Suave and selling it to a client. That's how bad it's getting in our industry. And I think that people are playing dumb, but it's because there's not a standard set in our industry. It's not like, hey, this is natural beaded rose. This is not something hand-tied hair. So it's like taking a stand of like, these are not the two same products. Like this is Suave and Orbe. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Or this is, I mean, that's a really big scale. You can even say Redken and Schwarzkopf, whatever. So, but what I'm saying is stand behind integrity. And the other thing that we talked about is, and we said we were going to come to you guys, is social etiquette behind the chair. Because I think we forget that we're in the service industry. I see so many artists get a big ego and a big head and this mentality. And you know what? It could be older clients. It could be younger clients. Stylists. I'm not going to point anybody out.
You know what's so funny? I think both age ranges have a little bit of both. But let me tell you, I'm not going to sit here and be like, all youngins are whatever, or all older artists are whatever, because we actually have an artist in Mastermind right now who's been doing hair for 40 years. I will tell you, in my own personal experience, the longer you've been doing hair, the harder you find it to do NBR, because it's very difficult and you have to be okay with not being good at something again. She's crushing it. Because she was just at our small class last week, and I went and looked at her stitching, and I was like, it's stunningly beautiful. Just pull it a little tighter. And she's like, thank you. And she made some comment about her son being like 20 or 30 or something. I was like, reel it back. Wait, what? Or no, her son's 40. Oh. And I was like, I'm sorry. Wait,
you have a 40-year-old?
What? And she's like, yeah, I've been doing hair for 40 years. I had him like right as I started doing hair. And blew my mind. So it's not all youngins that are the problem, or all like older. Everyone has their own personal issues.
Right. And I feel like, when you're older, you might be really set in your ways. And when you're younger, you might be ignorant to what is actually going on and not even realize you're doing it. You know what I mean? So there's definitely like it happens. But I always feel like, I don't know. I just always feel like with an abundance with social media and like putting your work out there, like art is so subjective, and people take it so personal when somebody's like, this isn't working for me. And I'll tell you right now, as a client, if something's not working for me, it's actually hard for the client to give the person feedback. You feel awkward and you feel bad. And you don't ever want to put your clients in a situation where they're like, I feel bad, but can I have a few more highlights right here? Yeah. Like, it shouldn't be like that. It should be, at my salon, we leave it like an open door policy of like, hey, if there's anything bugging you, please text us. Like, we don't want that. And I understand that this is like a new relationship. Like, I've done your hair once or twice, and I want you to feel like you can tell me that, and I'm happy to like squeeze you in or have an assistant help you out or whatever. Because it's like one thing to deliver a service, but we'll keep a client coming back. We'll keep them loyal. We'll keep them giving referrals. Is giving them a good experience and actually like caring not just about their hair, but the overall experience that they're having on a continuing basis.
So let's talk about social etiquette inside of salons. Now, I feel like this can range so broadly, and obviously it really depends on the client as well. Right. Like, some of my clients, like, okay, let's just address it. Smoking pot is legal here in California. It's not a big deal. One of my clients actually owns an edible business where it's not like brownies, but she'll make like beef stroganoff and lasagna. It's hilariously awesome. She's the best. Can we laugh about shit like weed with her? Yes. Do I have other clients that I would never bring that up?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But part of that is just reading your clients. But let's talk about like the energy inside.
But also
of
reading the clients,
conversation.
like in my salon, we have 4 chairs that are so snug. Like we have a small boutique salon in Laguna Beach. We have 8 chairs total. And there's like a little niche or a little corner in the salon where the chairs are really close. Like you can hear every conversation that's going on. So you might have a potty mouth, dirty mouth client that's just like, da, 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 da. But if there's a new client on the other side of the mirror, like we've had, like not recently, but in the years, we've had clients who we've reached out to and we've been like, hey, we haven't seen you in a bit. We'd love to have you come back. And they're like, I have to be honest. Like I remember a situation, this lady was like, I was so offended by the conversation that was going on. And I'm thinking of the girls that were working for me at the time, and they were fun to like go to the bar and drink and do. And I feel like it was like bar talk, like, you know what I mean? And I was like, God, like when I'm there, I would always like let it kind of like be funny. But the minute I felt it like was getting a little bit inappropriate,
too far,
I would always cut it off. But when I wasn't there, I could see it just jumping right off the cliff. You know what I mean?
Yes. I actually have a client right now that has been with DKW, I mean, for a solid minute now, because she was here last year when we had the artists and I started doing her hair. I didn't start her hair back then, but she came once and then didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
And I've been doing her hair for a while now. Yeah. And when she first came to me, she was like, okay, I don't want it to be weird. She's like, here's why I didn't want to come back. Here's the conversation that was had. Yeah. Now, I will say, you can't offend me. Like, bad words don't offend me no matter what the word is. Like, for me to be like, oh shit, that's inappropriate. It was
pretty bad.
It was, these are like, I feel like these aren't even jokes I would make, and that's how bad it was.
You get chummy with those you work with. And so I think that as a stylist, like sometimes the client's sitting there on their phone or doing their thing or reading or whatever. And so stylists, I mean, I'll sit and talk to my assistants, my stylists, like whatever. And the client doesn't care. Like you have to be able to read the client's energy enough to where like, if they want to talk, then talk with them. If they don't, then don't be weird. And you know what? And that's when I'm like, I'll sit and banter with my assistants and then they'll kind of be listening and chime in and like.
That happens all the time.
Yeah. And it's a comfortable space to be in. The other thing with social etiquette behind the chair, please don't play 20 questions with your client. Like if they put headphones on, they don't want to talk, and that's okay. Like that's okay. Just give them great hair. Ask them for feedback. Like, hey, does this bead feel too tight? Like I'm always doing like little stuff like putting the hair. I'm like, what do you think about this color? I really love this. You know, like ask them for feedback as you're working or whatever. Or if you want to ask them something, great. But if they have headphones on, like let them be. You know.
So let everyone know, secondhand embarrassment for me is like a really big thing. Like if people are doing weird, embarrassing shit, I want to like cringe into myself. You can't upset me.
What's secondhand embarrassment?
So imagine like, let's say Garrett were to trip and fall. Well, he wouldn't be embarrassed. Let's say one of your girlfriends was like, you're walking into a bar and she trips and falls. Okay. It didn't, like, that's embarrassing as fuck. It didn't happen to you, but it's so embarrassing for her. You're embarrassed for her.
Yeah. Okay.
Like you almost, like you feel like it's happening to you. Secondhand embarrassment for me is so fucking hard. So when I see stuff like that, or even like assistants are asking insane questions of the client and I'm sitting there like, you're like, don't. I actually address this with my clients because when I feel the vibe of like, I don't think they want to talk, or I know I'm going quiet, I'm just like, hey, just letting you know, if I don't talk a lot, it's not that I don't want to. I'm just I'm like laser focused on this. Yeah. If you want to talk, please do. If not, just let me know. And I'm good in comfortable silence. Do you know how many times they've come back and been like, oh my God.
That's nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually just going to like sit on my phone.
When I'm a client, like typically what I'll do, and this is like a social cue you should look for. Like if I'm getting my nails done, if I'm getting my hair done, if I'm getting anything, even if I go to my own salon and I'm having my hair done, I will tell like my assistants who's ever working on my hair, I'm like, hey, I have to get a shit ton of emails done. I'm obviously not going to say that to like a professional, but I'll be like, hey, I have some work to get done on my phone, so don't mind me. When you hear something like they say, hey, I'm going to be working on this, don't play 20 questions with them. If they choose to be like, hey, how's your daughter? What's your dog up to? Like, then you can chime in. But if they say they're working, let them work. And that doesn't mean it's going to like mess up the connection or the experience. Like they just have shit to get done and they want good hair. So check in with them throughout the service. Can I get you anything to drink? Do you need a coffee? Can I order you some lunch? How are you doing? You know, just like check in with them and that's it.
But don't harass him. Every time I can tell that anyone, whether it's an artist or a client or whoever is playing the 20 questions games, I'm ready to die. And one thing I would like to address, and this is for all business owners who, I don't care what business you're in. If you have a business where you are working in front of the client with someone else, so obviously hair, or let's say even like accountants, if you have an assistant, it doesn't matter. If you are doing something, you have an assistant and you're working in front of the client, you need to have a big discussion on your client. If, for example, hairstylist, if you're like, hey, go mix me 1 and 2, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And if they go, we don't have that, and start yelling across the salon, I'll fucking kill you. Like, don't do that ever. And
so we don't have that formula. The client's immediately like, you're going to fuck up my hair.
Exactly. Like, why don't do that? Or don't come up and be like, we only have this. Will this like work? I'm like, son,
is this good enough?
A bitch. Look, I say it because it actually happened.
Yeah,
so I was sitting here like, oh my, like ready to. I'm that immediately.
Whenever
makes
that happens
sweaty.
to me, my eyes get all big, and I'm like, cool. Thank you.
I go, all right, I'll be there in 1 second to mix it up myself. And I think at that point, once I'm like,
you know what?
I'll do it
I
myself.
have been guilty of like when. Okay, this was last year. I had I had a shadowing student come in. She was training with me all day. The model / client in the chair, like I felt like I knew her. Like she was getting all free hair. Like I felt like we could kind of talk the shit, whatever, you know. There wasn't in my area of my salon. It's kind of like more private. There's not as many. Like I only have 2 chairs, and I usually use both at the same time. Anyways, I have my shadowing student. She's sitting there, and as she's listening to this, she'll laugh because she'll remember it. But she was sitting there. I'm like, hey, the last day I have them do hair, and I kind of watch and critique and whatever, you know, and help them. And she started rinsing her model, and I was like, oh, I would have let it process a little longer. But I said that in front of the client, and she immediately was like, oh my God. I'm like, it's a little tangerine-y.
Oh, Danielle.
And somebody who wants to be an icy blonde doesn't want to hear, hey, that should have processed a little longer.
Or the word
and
tangerine.
And they're already and she's already rinsing it. And I'm like, oh shit, I just said that. And then she's all awesome. And I'm like, and then I was like, well, you'll be fine. She's going to tone it. And then she looked at me and she was like, giving me this death stare. Like, no, what did you just do? And then I was laughing. I'm like, you'll be fine. She ended up toning it. It was beautiful. But I was like, whereas I wouldn't have said that in front of a client.
Yes.
But it was like in a training experience. I'm like, cool tangerine hair. And then I was like, oh, you're fine. Like, you're getting free hair. You knew you were a model. Like, you know.
Yeah. Oh, and already hearing this, I'm sinking down a little like,
you know what I always say? And this is so funny. And you guys will laugh because you're in the hair industry, is clients are like, when you're doing the toners and the stuff at the bowl, they're kind of like, how does it look? And I found this like funny meme. They're like, it looks wet, but you can tell what it looks like when it is wet to an extent.
Of course you can.
And so I always tell people, even if I can't tell, I'm like looking through the hair and I'm like, oh, beautiful. Oh, stunning. Look at that piece. And they're like sitting in the shampoo bowl like, it's going to be so good.
You have to, yes, you have to read clients. So that for me, oh my God, that's just, don't ever come up and be like, ooh. Even, and myself, because I'm the trainer here, I come in and I look at the artist's work all the time. Like there's literally not a day, Monday through Friday, that I don't pop into the salon, walk around, say hi, see if anybody needs anything. Like I'm always wandering in and out, and I'll walk by and take a glance at beadwork, look at stitching, look at NBs, and just, I don't sit there like, I'm going to check your work in front of your client. I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? And I'm like, oh, look at your color. And everybody I think now knows the salon. Once I start saying, oh, look at this, looks beautiful, great, whatever, then I'm really just checking your work on a real life fucking client. Yeah. And if you didn't know, congrats, DKW. Now you know. But here's the deal. I would never address it in front of the client. I'm like, oh, everything looks great, wonderful. If I were to see something detrimental happening, I'd be like, oh, so-and-so, come here really quick. Off to the side, away from the client, not be like, ooh, that looks too tight or that's off. Never.
Well, you have to be so careful, because there's been times where I'll do the same thing. And if I see somebody like where the bead just looks off or whatever, like whatever it is, I will come over. But I think I have a little bit, I have the authority to do so because I'm like the creator of the method plus a salon owner. Mm-hmm. So I think clients appreciate it. But what I'll do is I'll be like, oh, you know what? I don't say it's wrong. I'll be like, ooh, try this. I think this will work out better for her hair. And I'll like just look at the stylist and kind of show them a little tweak or something. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, so how are you? And I think the client appreciates it when you're just like, oh, this looks awesome, but try this.
Yeah.
You know, like something like that is okay to do. Or there's been times where I'm like, the color blend, like people are placing hair and I'm like, hey, come over here for a second. And then I'm like, ooh, that color you put on top, I don't love it. Like,
Don't do it.
I'm like, put this one on. And she's like, how do I do it? I've already pinned it. I don't even know what to say. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, I got this. And I come over and I'm like, oh my God, hey, I have this new color. I'm going to have her unpin this and put this color on because I'm so excited to use it. And the client's like, oh, okay, cool. You know, so you have to, however you frame it, and you just have to be very careful about the client's emotions behind the chair. And I'm going to address this one last thing. There's 2 no-nos in being behind the chair. Number 1, don't air your dirty laundry. Don't talk about yourself. Like, if my clients keep prodding me for questions about myself, I know they just are chatting. They want to talk, and I turn it and ask them questions about them.
Yes.
I quickly, politely answer like, oh yeah, my kids are doing great. Oh my God, I saw on social media that so-and-so is doing this and this and this. If they ask you questions about their kids, they most likely want to tell you about themselves. That's what I've learned working behind the chair. So social cues, like something as simple as that. And the other no-no behind the chair is, and I don't care if you're talking with your assistants, don't ever talk badly about another client with a client in the chair.
That's where we ended last week.
I'm like, even if it's something like, oh man, that lady was a tool. I can't believe her. Da, 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 da. Like, even if it, like, just don't. Even if it was like a legit crazy client, like there's been times where like it'll come up and I'll be like, yeah, you know, and if I feel that conversation going that way, I'll be like, yeah, you know, I felt like we really did everything we could. And then I'll quickly change the subject. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Don't sit there and harp on it.
Yeah, don't harp on it.
Don't be like, do you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
And look, we have friends that are inside the salon, like clients who are friends. The last thing you ever want to happen is you're sitting there and you're like, did you know that Sally Sue was such a bitch? And then someone across the mirror is like, I'm Sally Sue's friend.
Yeah. It's just like, and you have to be very conscious of it because I think people are unaware that they might be, they think they're stating the facts and it's just gossip. So like, you know what I mean? They're like, well, that really happened. Well, you're gossiping. And I get it. Gossip is fun. Like, it kind of is. Like, a few drinks with your girlfriends, like, things are going to be kind of fun. And then you're going to wake up the next morning and be like, fuck, did I say too much? And you probably did. But just know, like, behind the chair, like, you have to be super careful with what you say and how you say it. And even, like, we've had, like, past stylists that no longer work with us. We've had some that leave on great terms. We've had some that leave on not great terms. And I have told every person in my salon, I'm like, if they say we're so-and-so or what happened, just you don't have to sit and harp about it. Like, you can just be like, oh, this is what happened. Be professional about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that is such a big thing
and
when
even if
people
you're really
leave.
close, even if
Yes.
you're really, say, like I had a few clients that I was super close with that I hung out with, like, besides just behind the chair. And I would tell them, you know, what happened. But be careful because, like you said, there could be somebody next door that's like, oh, and then they hear it and this and that. Do you know what I mean? So just put on your professional pants.
And it's one of those things, like, if you have someone that leaves, you don't have to, I feel like it's a fine line of you don't have to gloss it over and be like, oh, they're gone? What? Oh, you know.
No, address it. Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you start borderline lying and you're like, and stuttering, then it looks suspicious. But it's okay to be like, hey, it just didn't work out.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be hush-hush or weird.
No, and especially because I feel like in this industry, we have a very, very hard time separating personal and professional.
Right.
Like, I'm friends with people I work with, but even then, they all know. Like, I have one in particular who always says, okay, am I talking to Coach Ani or am I talking to Ani? And I'm like, you're talking to Coach Ani. And that immediately changes the entire conversation in, okay, not that we're not friends, but right now, this is your boss speaking to you. Like, here's what we need to address and here's what we're doing. As opposed to like, so let's get a margarita and talk about whatever, you know, there's just a difference in that tone.
And I think in the work environment, you have to set that frame. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You have to be like, and I've had to work with it on my artists. I'm like, hey, you guys sometimes giving me, because I genuinely love like hanging out with everybody we work with right now. I'm like, hey, I want you guys to understand, like, I have to give you feedback as the owner based on like what I'm seeing, but it's hard for me because I'm also friends with you guys. And I tell them that, and then like setting it up like that and then giving them feedback, they're more receptive to the feedback. And they're like, oh, thank you for the feedback. I'm like, you're welcome. I'm, perfect.
For me, because we also have so many places, we have so many apps where we talk and do like different things.
Yeah.
For me, I've banned all work through normal text. And you know, I do this to you all the time. You're like, Ani, and you'll start texting me and I'm like, nope, send it in Slack. Slack is the work app. Or like nothing personal goes in Slack or workplace.
Okay, there was a hot minute that I had to get a new phone and I had none of my apps and I'd get so pissed when Ani would text me that and I'd be like, I don't remember my damn passwords.
I'm like, I'm sorry. Texting me is for personal things. I won't be, I literally like don't respond respond to work things. I'm like, you need to Slack me or Vox me. I won't text it anymore.
Yeah, if you guys don't have the app Voxer, it's like a walkie-talkie app, but it's kind of cool. Like you keep like that's a good way to set the frame too with inside your employees. You could be like, hey, if I text you for drinks, you know that's personal. If I Voxer you, I'm not Voxering you to talk about drinks. I'm Voxering you to talk about work
fucking
content.
work.
Yeah, so it helps
Yes.
like maybe in your own salon, that might be a good thing for you guys to download. Voxer, it's like a walkie-talkie app, and you can just be like, hey, what's going on?
And that for me helped me do two things. One, keep everything separate because I'm trying to find a line of this is my personal life, personal time,
Right.
and here's work mode, like whatever you
Right.
need. And that made it a little bit easier. So like if I'm away for a weekend, even like when we all went to Vegas,
Right.
I have 3 apps that I use specifically for work. All of them went on mute. So I was like, nope, you're not contacting me. I'm not working right now.
I think I have my Voxer and Trello notifications on. I can't remember. I don't think I have Slack notifications on. But I will
You should
say
turn Slack on. I Slack you all the time.
I know.
And then I have to text you and go, Danielle, did you text Slack?
I forget about Slack for some reason, but you know what? Too, I think it's important. Like we don't work Saturdays at the salon. Like we're like the only salon that's like, sorry, we're not working Saturdays. But I try to respect people's time on the weekends. But sometimes I'm like, ooh, I have an idea or a thought or whatever, and that's where I'm like, I'm gonna Voxer it so they know. Like, I don't expect you to respond to this right away, but I want to like put this in there so like Monday morning you can check it.
Oh, really?
What are you
We
gonna
should
say?
talk to the entire team about that because I've always felt like I have to respond then and there. That's why I would just turn
Oh.
notifications off.
Well, maybe we should tell them that because what I do is if I want their attention right now, like if I feel like it's super important, I'll text them and I'm like, you need to check Voxer.
And then my response is, Slack me.
Yeah, but on the weekends, I don't like. I try not to text people. Like Crystal, I know was away for her like anniversary, and I was like, I don't want to bug her. But there was things that I kept thinking that I wanted to address, so I just put them in Voxer, and I was like, I didn't say go check Voxer. I just thought when she's back on Monday, she'll check Voxer. You know what I mean?
See, and for me, because normally my notifications are on,
Yeah.
if I see it, I check it immediately because I always assume everything's really important.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now knowing I don't have to answer right away, Danielle, you're like, oh, I should have maybe
I'm like,
talked about
damn it,
this.
maybe I shouldn't have done that. But
Okay,
anyways.
so
all right, so
But all in all, just really watch the shit you say inside of a salon. And as important as it is to like, yes, have that, I feel like camaraderie inside of the salon and with clients and everything else, also keep it professional,
Yes.
which doesn't mean you can't have fun.
right.
But there is, if I'm saying, and me who is pretty okay with about everything, if I'm saying there are lines that you can't cross, like guys,
Right.
those are some pretty hefty lines.
And be careful too that I've always taken a lot of pride in my salon. Like people come in, they're like, oh my God, you guys have so much fun. You have great energy. Like I love it. And then I've had clients who are like, who said in the past, they're like, the energy started to get weird and it felt very, not bougie? What's the word I'm looking for? Pretentious.
Oh, okay.
And they're like I don't think we were trying to be pretentious. I think the energy got weird because there was people transitioning out of my salon. And so it wasn't that same fun, like open communication vibe. And the clients read that as snooty and pretentious. And I was like, damn it. So like if you're a salon owner again too, or even if you're not a salon owner, be very aware of that vibe because chances are if you're picking up that vibe, so are clients. So, and clients want to go somewhere where they feel like they're taken care of, they're validated. For me, like when I go to like a nice restaurant or anything, like I like when people check in and take care of me, but not when they're like too like, do you need anything else? Can I get you anything else?
Stop asking me 500 times.
How's your grandma? How's your
fucking
uncle?
Water.
Yeah, I'm like, I like that you're taking care of me. So there's like definitely like a balance. You know what I mean? Like
For sure.
So just be aware of the energy inside of your space, inside of your lawn, your
lawn?
your lawn, your salon.
Your grass can get really upset.
And what role do you play inside of contributing to that energy? Be aware of the conversations that go on around you and as well as with your clients. And always just remember, keep it professional, friendly, and yeah.
Beautiful.
Professional and friendly.
And before we close it off, I would like to make one more statement.
Yes.
It is the official 3-year anniversary since BMS started.
You sent me that text last night and I was really into a show of Ozark. So that's why you got a thumbs up emoji.
I didn't even get. No, you responded. That's why I sent it to you and Garrett. But I was like, guys, 3 years ago.
That's
today,
so crazy. That's why. Did you see him? You probably didn't look, but I posted something on social media that I was just like, oh my God, like I'm gonna read it because.
Well, yeah. So while you're looking that up, but it's so crazy that BMS started, I have to say, only 3 years ago, but these 3 years feels like 10 years, but it feels like yesterday. I remember the chair I sat on. Like, I remember that day so vividly. I sat here and I'm like, shit, 3 years ago, today,
right.
is when I looked at you and Garrett and I was like, I'm going to come work here in a year. And you guys were like, fucking crazy lady.
You must have told Garrett that because you know what's so funny? You
scared me a little.
You sent me that picture and I was like, oh, cute. Look, Ani's standing by me. Like, I didn't even notice you standing by me. Like,
You scared me back then.
Oh.
You made me really nervous. And
really
now,
sweaty.
but I remember that energy I felt around you. Not because like, ooh, Danielle's mean, but I was like, it's Danielle. And I'm like, oh, this is how my students feel now. When I come up to look at their work and they're like, I can't do anything when you're staring at me. I'm like, okay.
You're like, sorry. But I'm going to close the show and I'm just going to share something that I shared on my Instagram. And I said, your reach is higher than you think. I started my brand 8 years ago, even though classes didn't pick up till the last 3 years. 8 years ago, which seems like a hot minute, but in the long-term play is nothing. What are you not willing to start that will cost you a decade? What I'm doing right now wasn't even in my realm of possibilities of what I thought could happen. Your biggest mistake is doing nothing. Reach a little higher each day and you will see massive results. Never overestimate consistency and measure your pace based on your results. And I just kind of like, I feel like there's so many like little things. Even if you go back and you look at your work over time, like if you commit to taking photos and improving your work, like I look at my photos like 3 years ago and I'm like, that shit's embarrassing. But at the time I thought it was great. Do you know what I mean? And so I just think same goes with business. And I feel like I see so many people that are on the same damn loop. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. You're really, really busy. But are you progressing forward in life? And what do you need to do to kind of take a step back and be consistent at what you're doing, but base it on results that you're seeing? Because you can be consistently doing the hair for 40 years. But if you're in the same damn place, like that's what causes stylists to burn out. Do you know what I mean? Is I just get to this place they're like, oh my God, I've been doing this forever. Well, choose to change it. And so many people stop doing hair in our industry because it's so weird that they'd be willing to start something new, but they're not willing to start making changes inside of the hair world or inside of our industry. And they just think, oh, well, the system's broken, so I'm going to go do something else. But you'll repeat the same habits, same patterns, same behaviors, just in a different industry. So if you're a hairstylist and you're like at that burnout phase, it's because you kind of created that situation for yourself. And I always refer to it as the hamster wheel. I hate seeing people on the hamster wheel. And I'm sure there's times in my life I've been stagnant on the hamster wheel. So we'll end the show by saying, yeah, social etiquette is important, but also be consistent in everything that you're doing every day and look back maybe 6 months, a year and a half, and measure your progression based on your numbers, based on how your hair looks, based on where you're at in life. And when you see that momentum pick up, it pushes you forward to continue that momentum. So anyway.
Thank you. So thank you for being here for the Big Money Stylist podcast. And if you would like to see our new podcast studio, go to bigmoneystylistnow.com and you can take a look. And thank you for being here with us for episode number 605. And we will see you next week.